start off with prayer. I'll start the recording real quick, and then I will have Rita start us in prayer.
Thank you, Matt. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Refresh us. Invite us to discover your presence in each person that we meet, in every event that we encounter. Teach us when to speak and when to listen, when to ponder and when to share. In moments of challenge and decision, attune our hearts to the whisperings of your wisdom. As we undertake ordinary and unnoticed tasks, give us simple joy. When our days go well, may we rejoice. When it grows difficult, surprise us with new possibilities. When life is overwhelming, call us to Sabbath moments to restore your peace and harmony. May our living today reveal your goodness. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Rita. We appreciate that very much. And we're going to continue to have folks roll in here. Here in a little bit, our next really focus, we're going to talk a little bit about some offertory insights. You know, we do a lot of work with parishes, a lot of partnerships with diocesan folks that are looking for different ways to help their parishes recover or just grow. We know that parish offertory can be a challenge, but we also know parish stewardship is a key for our diocesan efforts to be successful. The healthier we can help our parishes and our priests be, the better off we are as a community. So today I'm going to go through a little bit of our insights, and then Bill and I are going to go through a conversation about the Archdiocese of Kansas City and what him and Rita have put together and kind of how they got to that journey to compare against your situation. And then we'll do a little bit of a break out there so you can talk specifically on offertory, 10, 15 minutes. And then we'll come back together as an open forum. We'll go through a lot of those topics that you all submitted, and we'll just pose those questions to the open forum so we can get you all some insights and some answers to your questions, and be ready to share. If you have a success that you'd love to share with the group before we get to, ICSC this fall, this might be a great time to kind of put those ideas out there. And when you come together later this fall in New Orleans, we can chat about that. So with that being said, as I and our team have these conversations with both diocesan leadership and parish leadership across the country, I think of a song here, and I got to ask the folks in Dallas-Fort Worth what you did to this poor kid, but, Post Malone. And, the latest song, it ain't like I can make this kind of mess all by myself. That's a line that resonated with me because, our priests get put in situations they didn't necessarily make, and we kind of have to help them get out of it. Or sometimes they kind of made the mess because somebody let them make the mess. So I always like to say, let's get there. Let's get them. It is a mess. That's okay. Let's recognize it and let's move ahead. So again, it's funny to see a Post Malone looking folk, in country music now. So I'm sure that's going to be an interesting dynamic. But a lot of it does come down to planning. What is the framework for success we're giving our priests? And I hear this. Renee had a great priest speak with us at Region 10, Father Moreno, a second career as a priest. He was a businessman. Through tragedy, God spoke to him and brought him to the priesthood. And, he's got small parishes. He's got 3. But what's the plan? How am I addressing what I've got, securing, stop the slide, secure what's next, really be thoughtful in creating and future-proofing stewardship. And I thought his talk was excellent. So hopefully someday we can have him come on and speak to this group or speak to another group, because I think it was some great insight. So, but this is a lot about what we hear. Parishes say we're gonna raise more money next year. Okay, how? Well, it's just gonna happen. We're gonna do it because we're raising the budget. We gotta get there. Okay, or we're trying to keep costs down. We've eliminated staff. We haven't brought people back. We've got more part-time, more volunteer than we ever had. And we know that has its own challenges. You might be missing skill sets within the parish office, even within the diocesan support mechanism. Maybe there's some skill sets that we just need some help with. And that's where having a good partner, we've got a great vendor community here in the Catholic space that they can walk beside you to make sure the education and the concepts are available for those parishes to take advantage of, and actually have a plan to address the shortcomings or plan for growth, which is what we really want folks to be out of. You've heard Joni talk for years about the mindset of scarcity versus the mindset of abundance, and how that can really change what happens. You heard yesterday Robert talk about that. It was the mindset that was just stagnant. There was nothing happening. It was us versus them. And when he got out into the streets and he met with priests and he attended masses every weekend, to get to know the communities that they were in, and really challenge the priest to say, you say there's nothing, you're not able to do this, but I think I can show you a different way. And he did that several times. I remember one time he actually called me and said, hey, I had to go to a priest and say, you're only 12 households short of your participation goal. And that gives you another rebate opportunity, because they have a tiered rebate system where you meet financial, you get a rebate, you meet participation, you get a rebate. So they've created some incentives for the priests to help themselves out. And he said, Father, all you got to do is hold up these 12 envelopes. Let people know that before they leave today, can we get that? And they ended up getting 16, 20, 25, easily exceeding his participation goal. But Father wouldn't have done that if, somebody wasn't looking out and planning ahead on how can I help these priests achieve the goals so they can focus on the theological and the pastoral work. And a lot of that is that core system. What are your parishes working in? Is the system working for them or against them? We hear those frustrations with data sets and ugly data, and ask a parish what a household count is versus the diocese what the household count is. That's a whole wide ranging conversation you can have there. We could be off by double. Oh, we have 3,000 households. No, really, you got 700 donors. So you might have 1,200 donors. Let's think about what the data set looks like and how do we clean that data up periodically. We've launched some new initiatives. And having that framework for success. What does a good year look like in my diocese? Do I have a calendar that I can give them to say, these are the key things you should be doing each month? Pick 2 or 3 items for each parish to say, I'm on board. I'm going to do these 2 things. They don't have to reinvent the wheel or start something totally new, but they just need to know, what should I be striving for? What can I do? Can I pick up 2 or 3 of these next year and challenge my leadership, my leadership team, not just my parish council or my finance council, but a leadership team to walk beside me to make sure we can achieve these, because nobody needs to be alone in these efforts. And understanding all of the different buckets and pillars of parish need. How are we augmenting those? And as a partner of the Catholic Church for 112 years now, we're developing all of these new things that can help walk beside a parish, walk beside a diocesan office, where you may only be a half-time person on parish engagement and parish stewardship, while the rest of your time is spent on the appeal and major donor work. Or you might be blessed to have somebody really focused on parish engagement. Well, how do we give them the right tool set to walk beside a parish and figure out where they are in all these different areas? So that's the key. We see this happening time and time again. The headlines across the country, these are all from this year. Different parts of the country, merging, clustering, family, creating those parish families because of priest shortages or population shifts. But we still have plenty of people building. We have new churches growing all the time. Nashville, Texas, the South. We've got a lot of new families coming into our country that are looking for a church home and a faith journey. I like what Father Gary said. He's been with us for 13 years as part of our strategies with envelope and giving. But, having the ability to train the pastor on some best practices, bring their team alongside him to be successful, and then be that partner where they need us, however that may look. So, we look at that, and here's some examples. Just want to show you some of the numbers for those of you that are numbers centered. What can happen when a diocese is intentional from the bishop down, providing that guidance to say, folks, we need to make sure our story is being told. We need to make sure that we're moving our faith ahead and we're staying ahead of the curve rather than digging out of these debt traps that our parishes get into when they're just kind of left to their own devices year after year after year. When you give them something that they can invest in, they can see an immediate payback where it's not a cost. And I think that's the biggest mindset we run into, is the finance council sees costs and not return on investment. How fast can I get this paid for? What's a good fundraiser? If I spend $1, does it generate $5 or $10? And how does that impact the diocese, right? You all have assessments on the parish offertory. This was another example in Scranton, particularly, only 48% of the parishes participated in the offertory program, but they contributed 93% of the increase in the offertory in that diocese. And that's when a CFO and a development person sits back and says, wow, this could have been 2 or 3 times as good if all the parishes would have came on board. And that's the kind of momentum we need to create, because we're going to be able to fight that slowdown. And we're going to be able to give them, as we've developed our relationships, we're able to make that efficiency come to life. How does a single source of truth help not only the parish, but the diocese at the end of the day? Through having solid data, solid websites, good electronic giving mechanisms to support growth. And then, of course, our core of just envelopes. And I'll share this story with you because you're all going to be probably in something like this. This was a parish we worked with for 2 years in Scranton. They're not doing a third year. And this is a story that always amazes us. Like, when you run into something good, it runs well for 2 years. And for some reason, somebody behind the scenes gets in Father's ear and stops it. And now we're going to have to probably back, we'll come back again. It'll be a back and forth game. So, even though we have successes, sometimes there's some roadblocks behind the scenes that we have to dig through. This is a priest I've worked with personally, and Ray's worked with on campaign, as he talked about yesterday. We did a school campaign for $1.2 million in the middle of all of this at the parish effort. So there is a dance that you can do to help your schools and your capital and your offertory all at the same time, with the right strategy, and how those things fall in the calendar, how we leverage their website, their online giving, their envelopes, and all those great things. But how this can happen over the years. And this was another diocese we worked with, maybe about a third to half of the parishes contributed, actually did a program. So you can kind of see how this really helps the diocesan overview. $6 million new dollars to the offertory really can make an impact, right? Currently, we're working, in the Diocese of Austin and doing some great work down there, creating one-time gift momentum as well as getting donors on board. So, the next one, our Diocese of Atlanta, same thing. We're just starting there, doing a couple years worth of efforts. And we'll see how this creates momentum as we get a parish or two involved. Things start moving along a little faster. So this is where I'd like to bring in Bill Maloney. Currently getting a partner in crime, finally, right? He was in charge of many, many things, and now he gets to be the executive director at the foundation, while he has a cohort pick up the appeal, right, Bill?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about, and I need to get my questions up here, kind of about what's been going on as the executive director of the foundation. Tell me a little bit about why it was important for the parishes to conduct the increased offertory programs, and how you kind of got to that point.
Well, from my own perspective, about when I came on board at the Archdiocese at the end of 2020. So coming in at the end of the pandemic, still pretty much in the pandemic. A lot of parishes struggling with offertory. Just my own personal experience, not with OSV, but with other providers over the course of the 20 years I've been involved in Catholic fundraising. I saw the benefit of this particularly at my own parish, having a structured program. And so, in speaking with our CFO and Archbishop here, I presented the idea that, there are structured programs out there. And then working with Rita, we came up with a plan to roll this out to our parishes. And we're thrilled that a lot of them took advantage of it. I am still baffled why more don't take advantage. It works. It works every time. And as you said, Matt, the return on investment's off the charts. I think, and I'll credit. I want to credit Rita with this, is the whole idea of focusing on the parish's mission and celebrating all the great things that happen at our parishes, and giving the people the opportunity to participate in the mission of the parish and participate in the ministries of the parish. And, it goes beyond just the offertory increase, but also just the full participation in the parish and maybe knowing a little bit more about what's happening at your parish. Matt, you hit on something really important, is the structure. Um, I've been in the consulting side as well, and the good intentions are great. We're going to put something in the bulletin showing how much where our offertory is at. That they'll respond to that. Or we're going to I'll say something from the pulpit. And you really need a structured plan. You have to have the structured ask. You have to have a formal ask, and you have to give them a formal way to respond.
Yep.
And if you don't have either of those, if you ask and there's no way for people to respond other than maybe next Sunday they decide to write a different check, they're not going to do it. And
Yep.
so the formal, I think what the OSV program does is it formalizes all of that and
Right.
makes it pretty simple. The other thing you mentioned, I think that's been so important, is the lack of resources at most of the parishes. They don't have the people to run these things. It becomes overwhelming. OSV provides the structure, and it's almost as if you have another person on your staff for that time period.
Yeah, great. No, thanks. I think that is critical, as an efficiency guy myself, I really just feel for those parishes where it's a part-time secretary and a priest, and it's just so much is needed. You talked a little bit about parish participation, and you guys were supportive of it in a somewhat creative way. You kind of created a criteria for parishes to be eligible for granting. Can you talk, this group might be very interested on how that kind of came about, and kind of how you established both the criteria and the funding mechanisms between
Right.
the three organizations, basically. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So in year one, which would have been 2020, I guess it was the fall of 2021, we did a group, we did a three-pronged effort. We had the Archdiocese participated, the Catholic Foundation participated, and then the parish was asked to participate. So we basically did a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So we set up at that point in time, the criteria was it was parishes that were under $1 million in offertory that had shown a decline in their annual offertory over the last couple of years. They were the eligible group, and the Catholic Foundation agreed to pay 1/3 of the OSV fee, as well as the Archdiocese a third, and then the parish. We thought it was important that the parish have a stake in the game. In all cases of those that participated that year, if the parishes would have paid the full freight, they would have had a fantastic return on investment.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. But when they only had to pay a third of it, it was even more fantastic. So that worked out pretty well. In year two, the Catholic Foundation continues to offer grants. We've kind of opened it up a little more. They're primarily, the grants go to those participating in an OSV program, but we've continued to do the grants. The Archdiocese is no longer, they just did it for that 1 year. But the Catholic Foundation right now, our criteria is similar. We want to see, show us the need, and we're gonna lean more toward the parishes that need help. And the lower level offertories, those that don't have staff, those that may be showing a decline. And right now, what we're doing at the Catholic Foundation is we'll give up to $5,000, but no more than half of the fee. Again, allowing them to have some stake in it. But
Great.
but part of the reason we do it is one of our line items in our mission statement of the Catholic Foundation is our mission is to help parishes, schools, and ministries raise additional resources. And so by us spending money on our parishes, we're living out that mission by helping them raise money versus giving them money.
Great. Just so everybody knows, how many parishes do you have in the Archdiocese?
103.
Okay. How's the priest keeping up? Are you keeping up with the priest there?
Yeah, we haven't gone through any of the reorganization yet or any of that.
Good.
We're keeping. We need to ordain about 3 a year. So
Okay.
we only had one this year. We have, I think, 3 or 4 next year. But we're kind of keeping up.
Good.
But
great.
We're kind of blessed here in the Midwest.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned a little bit, the funding. Thanks for going into that. So are any of the parishes taking advantage of it that aren't funded yet? Have you seen any jump in?
Oh yeah, I think we've had at least 4 or 5 that are not funded that have jumped in, and those have been, I think, repeaters. They continue to repeat with you. They just see the value and they realize right off the bat the return on investment and the ease of doing it is kind of off the charts, and that's what I would tell all my colleagues out there. The ease of doing this, it's just is the reason they continue to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're always astounded. Parish is 2 or 3 years in. What's the, and then a priest change is obviously another big concern when you do the priest shift.
Yep.
Does the parish keep going, or is it the priest at his next, assignment, pick it up and start there? So that'll be interesting to see as that happens, or if it's happened already, it'd be interesting to know any stories there. I'm not sure it has though.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think pastors may fall into is that, the first year, I think you see the big jump.
Yeah.
And then they may see they still see a jump the next year, but it's not as dramatic because they've actually called, the people are actually now a little more aware. And sometimes, you mentioned earlier, Matt, how people will drop off. Oh, we can do, or they think they can do it on their own. Oh, that's simple. We can do that ourselves. And I suspect some of those will be back.
I always said that's always a good conversation. Like, oh, we'll just do it on our own. Okay, I'll check on you next year. And then they're like, boy, why did I think I could do that mess? But
they can't even get the printing done on their own at the cost you guys are doing it. So
yep. So obviously this takes some effort, right? You had Rita on site, probably. She did some webinars. You all kind of marketed it, right, with some support. Talk about how did that help a little bit? Obviously it helped a little bit, but what was the impact there? You have some conversations with priests after these workshops, after the webinars?
Yeah, we certainly did that. I think in the year 1, I was attending a lot of the regional deanery type meetings, promoting it. In the first year, what I think really helped is we had Archbishop Naumann speak to kick off that webinar. And we were still in kind of crisis mode to a certain degree, and our parishes came through all of that pretty well. But with Archbishop Naumann supporting it, I think that was a big key in the first year. Probably something we need to try to do again this year is to see if we can get him on board to promote it as well. But I would say this, between our own marketing and pushing out of the the webinar, and Rita does a nice job of presenting some of those slides you just had up there, just the bottom line. And I think that's what the priests, that when they come to something like that, they want to see the numbers. There's 2 things I think the priests are concerned about, and if you can do that, overcome these 2 things in that presentation, whether it's in live or on a webinar, is will it pay off financially? And will this be a problem with my staff? Will my staff have to do more work?
Yeah.
And if you can alleviate those two, or you can answer those two questions in a way that's satisfactory to them, and demonstrate that during these presentations, you're going to get a lot of buy-in. And I think the ones that came to the presentation and listened to that, and trusted, whether, a lot of it's trust.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have the participation of someone that's in the development role that is trusted by the parishes, versus having just OSV present. So I think that's another important part. That part, having Archbishop Naumann, myself, and Rita, all of us team up to present, it was a little more, I think it was much better received because of that trust level.
Yep. Great.
It
No, that's
wasn't
great.
it wasn't a sales pitch in their mind. It was something that we're doing to help them.
Yep. Great. No, yeah. We, I don't know if you have much insight here of Holy Spirit. We did have their results here so folks could see it's not only, in our development efforts, we get the pledge, we get the commitment, but how does that actually happen at the end of the day, looking out 6 months, 9 months, a year later? And these are the numbers, like you said, many dioceses have these deanery meetings, and the stewardship and development offices are going to those deanery meetings, trying to see how can we help, what help do you need, who can I bring in to help? But you need, things like this to say, here was the investment, here was the results. Any commentary here about Holy Spirit that you could share with the group?
Well, as you will all probably gather, that's a parish in one of our more affluent areas, just by the numbers there, that bears that out. But that is a parish that actually has a person that does some development work. But and I think they're probably coming back again this year, from what I understand, maybe the fourth year.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
that's a parish with resources maybe within their own office that could make a choice like that, or would think about making a choice, but they've found it to be quite valuable. They've also had they're getting a new pastor, by the way, Rita. And they've had, the pastor that's moving on has had some health issues, so he's been in and out. So this has sustained itself through some of the turmoil that they've had there. The pastor that's leaving followed a pastor that wasn't as well received, so this really kind of put them back on track.
Good.
But it's a solid. This example is one that's a real solid upper middle class parish with a pretty good school and a thriving area. So we have and they paid for this all on their own. I think that's the other important thing. They did not receive grants to do this.
Yeah, you can see how quickly they got their payback.
Yeah.
4 weeks before the first invoice was really due. So I think that's the other thing's kind of interesting. We don't invoice all of it up front. It's $1,000 down front, down payment to secure the weekend, and then we split it into 3 invoices after the program starts, so they can get the cash flow coming in and take all those pain points that you mentioned. Like, I'm worried about, can I pay the bill? Well, we don't want you to worry about that, so let's invoice a little later so you can see the cash flow. Hopefully, do that. Rita, did I miss anything? Anything else we should talk about?
Well, I wanted to ask Bill, can everyone hear me okay? I was having some microphone issues this morning. But Bill, I recall last year around this time, you said, Rita, you have gotten a priest who is kind of a tough priest to really like your program. And I'm talking about St. Patrick's. And you explained, and we all know at OSV, that peer-to-peer, priest-to-priest endorsement as well is really important. So when we're starting out, you may not have as many parishes who join, but then if they have a priest who participated and might be a hard sell who's out there saying this program really works, it can be a real benefit as well. Do you want to talk about Father a little bit and what you told me about that?
Yeah, Father Mark's a really great priest, and he's part of the Archbishop's team out here as he's our moderator of the Curia. And Father Mark's always been interested in different programs, if you will, that will increase offertory. But as Rita said, he's somewhat of a skeptic. And so I was somewhat surprised when he came on board with the program. His parish was eligible for a grant, so that helped. That helped in that regard. But I would have, from time to time, I would attend the Presbyteral Council meetings to give a report on our annual appeal and other things to that group, and he's part of that. And I brought up the offertory program in that setting to encourage others to do it. And Father Mark is not one to speak up and give an endorsement, but he sure did. And I know he had great success in year one, and I think some more success last year. So I think you're gonna have to work on him a little, Rita, because he's the kind of guy that's gonna say, "Oh, we can figure this out ourselves." And I know his development.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
His parish manager over there, she would probably disagree with him. So, but he has been a good, and I think you're right, Rita. The more priests you can get talking positively about it, the better. Priests are our best ambassadors for our annual appeals, but they're also the best ambassadors for this type of thing. They do talk quite a bit, as we all know, and they move. That's the other thing. When a pastor moves, it may look like maybe a challenge, but it's also an opportunity because they may be going to a parish that could use this type of thing, and it spreads that way as well.
Yep. Great. Rita, anything else?
One more thing. Yes, just one more thing, Bill, that I've been very impressed with the Archdiocese approach to stewardship. All of your parishes seem to want to do some type of stewardship. They don't necessarily have the resources, which is why you give the grants and things. Were you surprised with your very abundantly blessed parishes? Because we probably have 6 or 7 who are so abundantly blessed that come back year after year for us. Did that surprise you, or is it the workload that they've discovered can be offloaded and they can concentrate on something else? I think is my last question.
Well, Rita, you're right. We have probably 7 to 10 parishes that are abundantly blessed, and that one example that we showed is one of them. But believe it or not, that might be number 10 on the list. But there are a couple that have bought into the program, because you know what? Even the abundantly blessed parishes, in aggregate, they have enough money to do it. But that also creates challenges. People say, well, they don't need any more of mine. And so they lose that beauty of the need to give. And I think with this offertory program, going back to the mission, it's about participating in the mission of the parish, and regardless of what they might have, maybe their parish is twinning with another parish, and I know that's the case with a couple. So they may, if they raise another 10% in offertory, that's 10% that they can actually give away to another parish that may not be as blessed. And I think that's where the affluent parishes with an offertory program, sure, you have enough and you're you probably have a surplus, but what can you do by increasing your offertory and to reach out to the broader community that needs your help? And I think that's kind of it's a beautiful thing that we have going here with those 7 to 10 parishes that are at that extremely blessed, is that they're helping our inner city parishes that struggle to make ends meet. And I know one of those we've had both ends, Rita, here. We've had both our very urban core parishes that are struggling, that have participated and done well with this, as well as the most affluent. Absolutely, the most affluent one has participated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always working from that abundant mindset, just change the game. It does to your point, we help them tell their story so they can grow their ministry impact and know that there's no limit to the capacity we can serve as a Catholic community. We don't have to let other groups pick up the slack for social justice or food insecurity or those things. We can be that hub. And to your point, creating those opportunities where affluent parishes can share the gifts with the inner city. I know that happens in Houston. It happens in a lot of different towns where they just take on a parish that just has no chance to be, that successful. So that's really great to hear that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know, I don't know, Robert, your mic's on, isn't it? Robert Watts, you're out there. So, we're in Lexington, he's got a similar situation. You heard yesterday where a lot of the parishes have really no income, very little income to survive on. Diocese wide, there's only 3 parishes that hit $1 million almost, out of the 54 parishes he has. And I would say 30 are less than 100,000 a year ish, probably in that ballpark. So yeah, that's something that's new. And Robert, I don't know, we did a little bit yesterday. We talked about that development day, but you've done some of this work like Bill has, going into the priests and helping that. You want to shed any light on kind of that work you've done and what you've heard? Because we just started basically this spring in Lexington doing some of the same thing, Bill.
We have. We started this year and we were able to convince 6 to participate. We're not in a position to offer a supplement here, so they needed to pay on their own. But I'm happy to say that all 6 recouped the full price before the first payment was due. All 6 had between a 15 and a 20% increase. And I think that they've set the pace and the pathway that we can continue to market the program and hopefully add an additional 6 this year. This first year, we sort of cast a wide net and offered it to everyone. This year, we're going to obviously let everyone know that the program is available, but we're going to be a little more strategic in going after what Bill talked about, some of the abundantly blessed churches that may not realize that, okay, we're paying the bills, so we're okay. Paying the bills doesn't mean you're okay if there's still a larger impact that you could make in ministry overall. And that's where I think some of them miss an opportunity. If you had an additional, Matt likes to say, what if there were 13 or 14 months in the year, meaning that you had 2 additional months of offertory that you could use? What could you do as a parish? For a parish that talks about the need to advertise or the need to market itself to a more youthful community, these are all things that can be done with that additional revenue. As far as outreach to seniors and youth and young adults. So this year we've set a goal to double. We want the 6 back that did it this year to go to year 2, and we want an additional 6. Preferably at least 3 of them to be the abundantly blessed churches.
Oh, great. Thanks for the insight. And is it coming up now?
Just the room full of people.
There you go. Okay. This one?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So one thing I did want to let everybody know about as we dig into parish work, we do in our group, somebody mentioned how do we get people back to mass, right? And so a couple things you should have gotten recently from OSV. Obviously, our impact report. I've got this digital version kind of sharing where we've been and where we expect to go. The other solution is welcoming pathways. It really is designed. I've got a video that we can play on that. I'll send it out in the notes as we go through there. But that really is, you know, filling the pews, inviting people back. How do we leverage those reset moments within the year? And so I'll send the intro video where you can kind of get an overview, or that might be a step that's needed as part of an offertory enhancement. The welcoming pathways strategy, along with our mission pathways technology to track people in those journeys, if they're doing Acts retreats, Christ Life, different initiatives where you're trying to build engagement and track those key moments and see how people are participating. So that's one thing to, like I said, keep an eye out for some new things. The parish directory update service is another one we get a lot of questions on. Again, data cleanliness. My database is a little outdated. We haven't maintained it for a while. We did launch a directory update service where it's kind of like our offertory. We get to help you collect the latest information, email, phone number, household, send that clean data file back to you that can be imported into your church management system and updated however your church management system that your parishes are using does that. Some of them do it over a weekend. You give them an import, they do it. But a lot of different things that we can do. So again, I want to thank you for your insights, the questions, and kind of what you were looking to get out of today and yesterday are important to us. We want this to be a collaborative environment. And these are some of the key things that we saw come through as those questions. So I wanted to give everybody a chance here to comment or help us understand, you know, one thing that came through, and if you've been through the situation, it'd be great to have some insights, or even if you have any ideas of what you've heard other dioceses that may not be attending today, you know, running a diocesan capital campaign and the appeal. We've heard that discussion happen many times with some insights. So if anybody has any insights there, I think that would be nice to contribute. You can raise your hand or just unmute. I think everybody can unmute themselves, if I remember right. If not, raise your hand and I'll unmute you. We'll pull the chat up too here. Anybody been in that situation recently where you had a diocesan capital that...
Oh,
there's Lisa.
Yeah, we did that here in Phoenix. So, and during COVID as well. So our capital campaign is primarily, it's mostly done at this point. There were a few parishes that didn't participate. And so they're going now, but for all intensive purposes, it's basically done. We are still in redemption phase. It was, we had, I think, 5 rollouts. We have 117 parishes and missions. So it took us a couple of years to get it rolled out through the parishes, a few chunks at a time. But our campaign is basically, I want to say 95% collected at this point, and we are still in redemption. And the appeal went up significantly during the course of that time. So it is possible to do both at one time. It takes really clear and motivating messaging and just good connections with your donors. We worked very hard during the capital campaign to not focus on the dollar amount that was being raised, but to really build relationships with people. And we've continued that to this day. So in fact, we have a team of 4 engagement managers, and there may be more. So we maintain very good relationships with our donors. They continue to expand that, and they maintain relationships with all of our parishes. So for us, it was very positive to do both at one time, and that the appeal itself did not suffer one bit.
And did you execute those independently then? You didn't like put the appeal inside the campaign? You kept them separate, right? Okay.
Well, there was a case component for the appeal inside the campaign with the assumption that it might go down some, but that case piece was never paid out. So because it wasn't needed. So yeah.
Great. Good insights. Brian. try to unmute you here. I know you had your hand up there.
I did, but really Lisa said everything. Lisa said everything that, it just seems like it would be a disaster to try to separate. And we used to do it in the reverse. When a parish was doing a campaign, they would freeze the appeal. But 20 years ago, once I saw the results of that, we stopped that immediately because it was just a disaster to try to restart it. The donors were confused, the parishes were confused, and nobody was happy. And when we've done our capital campaigns nationwide, our annual appeal has increased because we're better about communications and more intentional about donor relationships. Not just our office, but everybody is. So I think
Good.
not much to add there.
Okay, no, perfect. No, so that's always interesting. Again, when you're doing diocesan capital, do we just roll the appeal in there and then try to roll it back out, or do we keep the separate identities as a discussion?
I think the only thing I would say would be, I really think it could be, I don't think it's like, well, we could do one way or the other, but this is a little bit better. I really think that rolling the appeal into the campaign could turn into a real financial disaster for a diocese. So I don't want to underestimate or understate that. I think that could be a real disaster.
Okay. Well, good. No, that's good insight. Appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. Libunts, Cybunts, that's always a big deal. How can we get those folks back that we lose, even, Robert, and we've had those discussions about, well, I'm adding new, but I'm still missing some folks that gave last year, and where did they go and why did they go away, and those kind of things. So anybody have any tips or tricks or anything you've tried, that you may want to share with the group? We'd love to have some insights there on some Libunt, Cybunt activity that you've tried that may work. And those are last year, but not this year. If you're not familiar with those terms, I think everybody probably is.
I mean, I can chip in again if you're not sick of hearing from
Yeah,
me.
go for it.
We're going through right now, we call it our major donor Libut, and we have 20 some pages of our top donors that gave last year but haven't yet given this year. Our main phase is at the end of April. And we have our appeal council, which advises on the appeal, and we get them together and we assign names, 5, 10, 12 names to each person. And then we have a weekly follow-up call where people are telling us what calls they've made, what emails they've made, when we discuss when we should send follow-up letters, discuss information intelligence we gather. And it's just a weekly call after the first initial assignment meeting, which takes about an hour and a half. And it works very well, and it really engages the people making the calls. And 90% of the time, people are apologizing to me that I have to call them to follow up with them, and they thank me for the call. So and the council members really do. The ones who are kind of inclined to be able to, so people who are uncomfortable with it are just uncomfortable with it. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. The people who are comfortable with it seem to really enjoy it, and it's very effective. And that's with the major donors. Last year, that effort brought in 1.4 million, and this year we're between $400,000 and $500,000 on that one effort.
Nice.
So that's with major donors, and for the broader scheme, we do telemarketing that focuses on Libunts, and more recent Cybunts. We do a special mailing to them in Christmas from the Archbishop. That's not a request for money, but a request for telling them we want to pray for them and making that connection with them. So there's a few particular outreaches to the Libunts that we do.
Nice. For some of those folks in appeal council, Brian, would you mind sharing just kind of what the makeup is of that, and how that helps you do what you guys do on the major gift side?
Sure. We have between 20 and 25 laymen and women and clergy that meet a few times a year. They also have committees, a communications committee, a major donor associates committee. And we're engaging with them on everything from the developing the communications. Joni knows that well. She comes to those meetings now, to making these calls, to helping make a recommendation to the Archbishop on how to allocate the upcoming appeal goal. and approving any special grants that the Archbishop wants to give from the annual Catholic appeal. So over the course of a 4-year term, we get to know them really well. They get to know how the diocese works. Many of them move on to another committee, another council, another board in the Archdiocese. So that's a nice boot camp training for that. And they become appeal ambassadors, for the rest of their life. Some of them often tell me that it's one of the best experiences they have, and you can see it. One of the past chairs of that council just passed away, and he's become such a dear friend of mine and my family. And then I'm there, and all these other past council members are at the funeral, and they're all coming up to me to talk about their time on the appeal council. And it's just very touching and moving that it brings these people, not only does it help the appeal, but it brings these people closer to the church. And then in the long run, they're also in their parishes and they're talking to their pastors, and the other people get more of a human view of the appeal because these people are known across the diocese and they have friends in their own parishes. So
Thank you. That's great. That's great. Joni, anything you want to add to that? Sounds like a pretty good group.
Yeah, I think people also like to know what maybe somebody did that was new this year that they haven't done in the past. And Brian, if you don't care, I'm going to call on you real quick because I love your thank you videos.
Oh.
Would you mind sharing some information about that? And then maybe somebody else could share what they've done as well, because those videos are fantastic.
well, I'm not sure I want to share it because I'm not sure I want other people doing it. Because right now it's pretty unique. No, we have a system that we just, as these, well, the whole system is basically we've used Power Automate to set up a daily note to me about the $1,000 plus gifts that came in the previous day. And then Brian Kelly and I take a selection of those, and we use a program called CauseVid, and it allows us to create a little video at my desk of me just saying to like Bill and Susie, hey, thanks for your gift. I appreciate it. We received it. It makes a real difference. It was great to see you at the event the other day, or how's your mom doing, or anything like that. Any of those kind of messages, just to say thank you. And the system allows for the video itself to be embedded in the email. And so that when the donor opens the email, they see me and they see me moving, like, how those videos kind of can be a preview of a video, and it kind of catches their interest, and then they see the video specifically to them. Actually, last year we used this system to even do a couple of solicitations of people that I knew would want to give, but I was having a hard time getting a hold of, and I just sent them a video asking them to make a gift, and so far that's 100% a response rate. So it's a simple, quick way, and people respond and say, thank you, that's really a nice touch or a unique thing. So as long as other fundraisers, other charities aren't using it, we'll continue maybe to be doing it and be kind of a unique way of a personal touch for us to say thank you.
Yeah,
And then once
great.
the video goes out, you can use we use NXT, and it's integrated to our Microsoft, so we can click a button and add that contact to Razor's Edge as a record that it's been done.
That's great. Yeah. There was a quick question on the kind of job description of your council members. Do you have like anything that you could share about who you're looking for? I don't want to say job description, I guess.
Job description. What probably would be most helpful would be if we somehow shared the new member council orientation.
Oh, okay.
PowerPoint that we do that tells them what's going on with the council.
Okay.
Throughout the year, what the job
kind of entails.
role is. Yeah.
Be nice. Okay.
I can email it to you, Matt, or Joni, or somebody if you want.
Yeah, if you don't mind, and then I'll share it with the folks that are asking for it.
Right.
I can PDF it and add it to some of this stuff too when we send out our follow-up. So appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, the video thing's really cool. Any other kind of Libunt, Sibunt things that you've done that anybody wants to talk about? I know there's been a lot of great stuff out there. I see quite a bit. Just watching at the chat here, so that's sorry. I'm looking over to the side, make sure I don't miss anybody. We all got less chatty once we're out of the breakout rooms, I think. Seems like the breakout rooms were going really, really well. So we'll throw you back in those and you can talk more. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, I do have a couple things here that I wanted to share. Before we cut loose. Got a couple more. One more poll question, if you don't mind, before you take off. There it is. Back. So kind of launch this real quick. If you don't mind giving me some feedback on today. Give you about 30, 45 seconds here to fill that out. And then I will be sending a survey just with 5 or 6 other questions as a follow-up to this. If you wouldn't mind filling that out for us, kind of let us know if you'd like to do this gathering again, maybe pre or post ICSC, or, you know, we do the monthly webinars for ICSC development. Maybe this is something you want to do once a quarter or so. Maybe we gather and share some insights, pose some questions to the audiences, create that collaborative environment. I know some regions aren't as collaborative as you'd like to be, or you'd like to hear more from around the country. We definitely want to facilitate those conversations and bring people to you that might make sense. One or a couple things that you may hear at OSV, we've got a new executive director of our institute, Jason Duderman. Will be taking over that role, is taking over that role now, our Institute for Catholic Innovation. So we're excited to see what he's going to bring to that as we reinvigorate our institute. Obviously, right now, we're focused with Jason Shanks being at the Eucharistic Revival and taking on the role of CEO there. It's been very exciting to see the growth and the opportunity available to him to be part of that organization and see where the Eucharistic Congress takes us in the future as we get into the year of, you know, the parish or year of ministry. I'm missing the word. What is the next year called? Ministry or parish? After
Fourth ministry. Yeah.
Yeah, ministry. So, you know, we're always excited to see what that brings us and what's next. So,
Matt, I have a question while people are filling out that survey.
go for it.
So we're just understanding the schedule for ICSC. I just found out literally 15 minutes before this started that lunches will be hosted ballroom style by ICSC. And many times, as you know, I host that panel discussion about annual appeals at lunch, and we get really great turnout from all of you at that. And I know many of you like it. So we can't do it at lunch. Our options are to do it Sunday, so that'd have to be early afternoon, or it would have to be a breakfast session either Monday or Tuesday. Or I was also wondering if any of you were staying till Wednesday and if there was any interest in that happening on Wednesday, because I've had it in the morning before, which means we have to do it around Sharon, what time? 7:30?
I'd say 7:30 normally.
7:30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody came. I know the directors like to sleep a little bit.
It's a little tough.
Anybody want to throw in a vote? Would you come if you, okay, so Jennifer said Sunday afternoon. Okay. That'd probably have to be about 1 o'clock, or maybe even we could make it lunch, or, you know, 12:30 and make late lunch on Sunday.
Yeah, I could do that.
Sunday, Brian, thank you.
I'd go Sunday as well.
Sunday, okay.
Mhm.
All right, this is what I want to hear, because I'm going to need you guys to come.
Have to drag them back out of town.
What do you think, Renee? Sunday afternoon?
I just stepped out. What was the question?
That appeals panel discussion that I typically have at lunchtime, I won't be able to do because both Monday and Tuesday are ballroom lunches ICSC is hosting. So I want to have it because everybody likes it. I So I was asking, would you prefer to be
I
Sunday?
don't care I don't care if it's an early morning breakfast as long as we have it. It's one of my favorite sessions in the,
Okay.
yeah, and so I'll do whatever I can to be there.
Thanks,
Okay.
Renee. I got a couple people saying Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
What do you think about Sunday afternoon before the plenary?
I'm fine with that, because usually the only thing you're competing with then is that first time attendee thing, and
Yeah.
none of your participants are gonna be, I
Right.
hope, first time attendees.
But most likely,
Yeah.
yeah. We can give them a rundown to be a first time attendee. Come to this session.
That's right. Yeah, this is where you get all the stuff you need, right? Yeah, 'cause I think
Okay.
Catholic extension and the foundation stuff happens earlier, right? So,
Right, they wrap with lunch that day, and then when
They-
lunch is over, the foundation forum's over.
okay.
Okay, so we'll have to make sure we understand that timing, Sharon.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you, everyone, because I didn't want to do it at 7 or 7:30 a.m. because
Yeah. Y'all are gonna have too much fun at night. It might be a little tough to get up
at the
early.
dinners, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, I do want to share back if there's any other discussions, any other topics you want to ask the group, we're more than willing to stay on and talk about those. But we do hope that you enjoyed this time together, the breakout sessions. If we want to do this again at other times in the year, I'm more than willing to put this together. I know, the appeal sharing strategies that we have in our little regional meetings, like Region 10 that I was at last week, and I'm heading to Region 6 this week up in Cleveland. It's always great just to hear the stories of success and failure. If there were some, like I tried this, don't do that. Those are just as valuable, I think, especially for some of the new folks that are a year or two into their roles across the country. It's always great to hear that, how we can help, and how we can be better partners together. So,
Well, I just wanted to share in particular yesterday's opening session on the appeal and all the ideas and your approach. It couldn't have come as a better time, because as soon as we get off this call, Rachel and I are going into our conference room. We're having a huge whiteboard session. We're inviting other people in because we're brainstorming what will be new and different about the appeal. So thank you and all the diocesan partners that shared so freely yesterday. That was great.
good. Thanks, Renee. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. All right. Well, I think we're good then, but we do look forward to it. If you do need anything, my email address, I'll send out another email this afternoon to everybody. If you don't see it, let me know. But I definitely want to be here to connect you to resources and be a partner for your growth, both at your parish level and your diocesan efforts, if there's a way to partner with you. So from everybody at OSV, thank you very much for your time and have a great afternoon.